This is a Magnavox ZV427MG9. This is a combination VCR DVD recorder I've had for a number of years. Got it plugged in, dead, nothing. So I guess we'll have to check and see what's wrong with it here. This is pretty handy for transferring VHS tapes onto DVD, which I don't do too much anymore. This thing hasn't been powered up actually now in a few years, so obviously we got a problem. So I guess we'll open it up and see if we can figure out what's wrong. Okay, the first suspect here would be the power supply, which is located under this board here. And to get to that, we've got to remove some cabling. I'm not going to remove this one because it goes to the laser assembly, and I don't want to damage the laser because it's static sensitive. You don't want to disconnect that unless you short out the pins to short out the laser. So let's see if I got an, oh, I got one more. Oh, we don't have one more. We've got one in the back. Then I'm just going to roll this over to the side, get it out of the way. Okay, I need to remove the DVD drive next. So to do that, first I'm going to remove the front. Sometimes when these old units get old, the plastic gets pretty brittle. And this doesn't seem too bad here. Here's the front panel, and I have a connector here I need to remove. Now I can remove the front panel. Okay, now we get to the screws that hold down the drive. Probably a good idea to keep track of the hardware in an eggshell here. And let's see what we got. And here's the power supply. Fuse is good. Figured it would be. So let's look at the power supply and see if anything looks out of order here. No burnt components, nothing looks hot. Could be a capacitor problem. I don't see any bulging caps. It's a common problem with these units, especially that have been sitting for a long time. I think I will pull the power supply next. Do some tests on that. Okay, I plugged the unit in. And I'm going to measure across the main cap here. We got a bridge rectifier that charges up a main cap. I'm going to see if that cap charges. Now this is, if you don't use a isolated meter, you don't want to go into the hot side of this thing. I'm using a DVM, so I don't have a problem with that. So let's measure across that cap. 166.2 volts. So we're good to there. I'm going to discharge that cap now before I go any further. Make sure our voltage is down. A little dielectric absorption. We'll give it another couple seconds on the discharge here. Of course, I'm unplugged now. Alright. I'm going to check the ESR of a few of these caps. See what we got here. Well, I don't see any high ESR caps on here, so I guess we'll have to investigate a little bit further here. Well, I had to pull the main board out of the chassis. I found the 5-volt supply rail was shorted to ground, and what I found was this capacitor here. 6.3 volts, 470 at 6.3, and that is C1052 right here. C1052 is shorted. 0 microfarads, and looking at the meter here, 0 microfarads, it's shorted, leakage, it's no good. So that cap's bad. I don't know if that's exactly what was pulling the power supply down, but it's 0 ohms. I just lost it here. Anyway, we're going to replace this cap and see what we get. Here's a 470 at 10 volts, a little higher voltage. And it's 497 microfarads, 0 leakage, so that's what a good capacitor should look like. So I'll replace that and let's see what happens. Maybe this is the problem, then again maybe this is just one of the problems. Before I bolt this thing together, I'm just going to make sure we have power. I'll plug it in. Oh, there we go. I guess that's a good sign. fine now here. Well, we got power now, but I don't have the DVD drive installed. So I'll do that next, and we'll see what we get. I'm going to do that before I put it all back together. These aren't the easiest things to work on. They're pretty much built to put together cheap and then throw them away when they don't work, I guess. Okay, installed the DVD drive, CD DVD. So let's see what happens here. Open. Put in a disc here. Spinning up. Which one is play? I think it's this one. And it's playing. So this was the culprit. 470 microfarads at 6.3 volts. That was pulling down the 5-volt line. This unit was completely dead, and the strategy I used to determine what the problem was as follows here. You can disconnect the power supply, which is here, with this cable, this flat flex cable here, and I determined the power supply was okay. So the problem was obviously on the main board over here, and I had limited information as far as circuit details here, but luckily they had silkscreen onto the board here what some of the different voltage rails were, and by measuring on these different points here, for instance, I had the 5-volt bus. I measured a resistance to ground of 0, so obviously the 5-volt bus was had a short to ground, and it seemed to be in this area. You can also use like an ESR tester, low ohms meter, to narrow it down where it is. But anyway, what I was able to do, and I had to remove the main board here, I found out that capacitor, here's the replacement here. This cap was bad. It was shorted. 470 at 6.3 volts. I put in a 470 at 10 volt replacement here, and when I reconnected it and powered it up, it came back to life here. Still had trouble with the VCR. I put a tape in, and it had all the symptoms of a bad mode switch, and that's exactly what was bad. The mode switch was dirty and needed cleaning. The mode switch is located underneath here. I don't think you can see it. Anyway, it's under here. It's mounted on the main board, and you've got you know, the video heads and the motor here. They're soldered in, so I didn't want to unsolder all those connections, so I just loosened up. There's 2 screws on the bottom. You've got to remove the main board here from the chassis, and then I removed the screws holding the drive here, the VCR deck, and I was able to lift up the front enough to pull the mode switch cap off, and sure enough, the mode switch was dirty. I cleaned it, added a little deoxit power booster here, and now the tape's working okay. So if you have limited information, check out on the board here and look for labels here that show the different voltage rails, and sometimes you can find out which one is pulling the supply down. And of course that shunt by this bad capacitor caused the power supply to shut down, so I had zero output here, or 0 indication. The unit was completely dead. Well, this unit is repaired. I just have to put it back together in the case here. One more test here, though. I want to make sure the VCR is operating okay. And it appears to be working here. Try the fast forward. And the rewind. And that works. One other thing, you can take the DVD deck out here, 4 screws, and then remove these 2 flat flex cables. I wouldn't remove these can stay on there, and especially this one, you want to be careful of static. The lasers are pretty sensitive to static charges, but if you pull these 2 flat flex cables out, the 4 screws, this whole unit pulls out, gives you access to the power supply underneath, and some of those monitoring points there. These are nice units. They're especially nice for if you want to transcribe an old VCR tape onto a DVD. These are really nice for that. It's got the DVD recorder on the right side and the VCR player on the left. The unit's all back together now. I'm going to run a test because sometimes after you bolt everything in, sometimes things crop up. You know how Murphy's Law is. So I'm going to test first the DVD. Use the remote control. Should load, says loading. It seems to be working. Let's try fast forward. If you get one of these, try to get the remote with it. Unfortunately, a lot of the more modern devices without a remote, it's hard to operate all the functions. Sounds good. Well, I think the DVD's working alright, so now I'm going to test the VCR and make sure that's working okay here. See if the open and close works. It does with the remote. Okay, good deal. Okay, I'm going to test the VCR now. Seems to be loading the tape okay.
There is nothing wrong with your television set.
I don't know about that.
Attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. For the next hour, we will control all that you see and hear. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
Well, there. It controls both the horizontal and the vertical. It sharpens it to crystal clarity. Anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try to get more videos out here as my health improves here. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.